Chapter 14, Part 1. The Cause and Benefit of Temptations. I have briefly shared with you a taste of the sorrow and affliction that my soul went through by the guilt and terror produced by my wicked thought, and how I was delivered from that. Then I told you about the sweet and blessed comfort that I met with afterwards. The comfort stayed in my heart for about a year, to my unspeakable appreciation. I will now, God willing, briefly explain what I believe was the cause of this temptation and how my soul benefited from it. I believe that there were two main causes, both to which I deeply adhered all the time this trouble lay upon me. The first was that when I was delivered from the temptations that were past, I did not pray to God to help me from temptations that were to come. For though I can truthfully say that my soul was much in prayer before this trial seized me, yet then I prayed only or mainly for the removal of present troubles and for fresh discoveries of His love through Christ. I saw afterwards that was not enough, but I also should have prayed that the great God would keep me from the evil that was to come. I became deeply aware of this by the prayer of holy David, who, when he was under present mercy, yet prayed that God would hold him back from sin and temptation to come. Then shall I be upright, and I shall be innocent from the great transgression. Psalm 19 verse 13, King James Version, author's emphasis. By this very word was I tormented and condemned all through this long temptation. There was also another verse that greatly condemned me for my foolishness in neglecting this duty to pray. Therefore, let us draw near with confidence to the throne of grace, so that we may receive mercy and find grace to help in time of need. Hebrews chapter 4, verse 16. This I had not done, and therefore I was left to sin and fall, according to what is written, praying that you may not enter into temptation. Matthew chapter 26, verse 41. This very thing is to this day of such weight and awe upon me, that when I come before the Lord, I dare not get up off my knees until I entreat Him for help and mercy against the temptations that are to come. I urge you who are reading this to learn from my negligence and beware that you do not neglect to ask God to help you resist future temptations, especially as you see all the affliction and sorrow that I endured for days and months and years due to my neglect. Another cause of this temptation was that I had tempted God. My wife was with child, but before her full time was come, her pangs, as of a woman in travail, were fierce and strong upon her, as if she would have immediately gone into labor and have been delivered prematurely. It was at this very time that I had been so strongly tempted to question the being of God. Wherefore, as my wife lay crying by me, I said in my heart, Lord, If you will now remove this sad affliction from my wife, and cause her to have no more difficulty tonight, then I will know that you can discern the most secret thoughts of the heart. I had no sooner said this in my heart than her pangs were taken from her, and she fell into a deep sleep, and so she continued until morning. At this I greatly marveled, not knowing what to think. But after I had been awake a good while, and heard her cry no more, I fell asleep also. So when I woke up in the morning, I remembered what I had said in my heart the night before, and how the Lord had shown me that he knew my secret thoughts, which was a great astonishment to me for several weeks. Well, about a year and a half later, that wicked, sinful thought went through my wicked heart that I told of before. Let him go if he wants to. So, when I was fallen under guilt for this, the remembrance of my other thought and how God answered my request would also come upon me, reminding me and rebuking me that God certainly knows the most secret thoughts of my heart. And with this, the passages that were between the Lord and his servant Gideon fell upon my spirit. How Gideon tempted God with his fleece, both wet and dry, when he should have believed and proceeded upon his word. The Lord tested him afterwards by sending him against an innumerable company of enemies with what appeared to be without any strength or help. Judges chapter 6 and 7. So God justly chastised me, for I should have believed his word and not have put an if upon the all-seeingness of God. Now, I will tell you some of the advantages that I gained by this temptation. Because of this, I continually sensed the being and glory of God and his beloved Son. In the previous temptations, my soul had been perplexed with unbelief, blasphemy, hardness of heart, questions about the being of God, Christ, the truth of the word, and certainty of the world to come. I was greatly assaulted and tormented with atheism, but now things were different, and God and Jesus Christ were continually before my face, though not in a way of comfort, but in a way of exceeding dread and terror. The glory of the holiness of God did at this time break me to pieces, and the mercy and compassion of Christ broke me as if I were being tortured on the wheel, for I could not consider him except as the Christ, whom I had lost and rejected. And the remembrance of this was as the continual breaking of my bones. The scriptures now became wonderful to me. I saw that the truth and certainty of them were the keys of the kingdom of heaven. Those whom the scriptures favor must inherit bliss, but those whom they oppose and condemn must perish evermore.